Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast, brought to you by Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning. I'm your coach, Kenny Marquardt. Today I'm joined by Adam Gall, who's the owner of Dark Timber Outfitters, Dark Timber Lodge. They are a big game guiding service in Colorado. And Adam's also a member at the gym and a frequent attendee of the 6 a.m. class. He's a great dude. We talk a lot about elk hunting. We talk a lot about preparation for that mentally, physically, etc. But we also talk a lot about wildlife biology, which is a strange topic to get into perhaps on a gym podcast. But I personally think it's incredibly important. And Adam has a really unique and special perspective on it because of his background. So we do get into a lot of that. So enjoy, learn a lot, and hopefully you'll impact your life and the lives of our future generations by what you learned today. All right, enjoy. Adam, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. We had to cut off our chat about all the extensive hair and makeup we both did to prepare for this.
My gel is in.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to probably tell you that this was a video podcast. Clearly, I took it very seriously this morning as well. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm sitting here with Olympia, who's also right here. I don't know how long she'll be here for, but yeah, we're doing all right.
You know, Olympia can probably. She's not. Olympia, are you 9, 10?
I'm 7.
7.
Yeah.
Oh,
she'll
man.
be 8 in a couple weeks.
Okay.
August
I think we
8th.
talked about that. Yeah, that's right. You can give the real answers when I ask your dad questions. You can give us your perspective.
They'll be more accurate, right?
Yeah. Garrison likes to tell the stories, like all the bad stories. I told him that he's not allowed to speak at my funeral because he's only going to tell the stories of one time I glued my lips together when I was actually, you'll find this funny because I was putting fletchings on and it was the tip was clogged and I was like, oh, I'll fix this with my teeth, and then it squirted out of my lips and my lips got glued together. And that's his favorite. That's the only story he'll ever tell anybody about me, I'm pretty sure.
How did you get him undone?
I think it was just sheer,
just ripped him apart.
Pretty much ripped him apart because it was like, well, what are my options here? I can probably rub acetone on my lips. I can go to the hospital or just rip these suckers apart. Hope they end up proportionally equal.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, that's I gotta outlive that with my other adventures and accomplishments.
I did glue a couple weeks ago. I glued my finger in a similar vein, working on a wooden table, a barnwood table, and you can use this super glue to fill in cracks and make repairs. And they have this activator spray that you can spray on the glue that dries it instantly. and I. On a similar vein, no pun intended.
Yep.
Catch that?
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I activated my finger onto the barnwood table. My index finger was stuck to the table for a couple minutes until I was able to cut it out.
Oh, yeah.
Not my finger.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, you gnaw off your thumb just to not have to explain how stupid you are.
Might impact the sale of the table a little bit, but...
Yeah, that's part of the downfalls of living in a small town like this. There was a period of time I knew every firefighter, like half the EMTs, and I was always like, I'm not calling you guys. There's going to be something I should, with some quick medical intervention, I'll be able to survive, but I won't call because I'm just going to be too embarrassed. So I'll just die. So,
Right.
Yeah, let's pivot. So you started the gym 2 years ago? I think it was about... Because you and I met about 2 years ago, I think. You were on the verge of moving back here.
2 years ago in June. This past June. And yeah, you were the person that I did my interview with. And I think we mostly talked about hunting. There wasn't a whole lot of gym stuff involved. But...
So, you want to sign up?
Right. You like hunting?
What do you do here?
How much it is a month? So.
You've not told me anything about this gym. We've just talked about.
It's a really interesting sales pitch he was kind of making at the intro thing.
It doesn't work very well, except for on a very select few people. So,
yeah. But yeah, it's been 2 years. It's been good. I've never had never been in a gym prior to this one, especially like a class type of setting. That's a whole new deal, or was a whole new deal. So yeah, it's been good. Okay.
For the listeners, he's getting some bunny ears. So
My daughter is hanging on me like I'm a jungle gym right now.
That's good. That's most of what we fathers play is at that age. I think is
Yeah, I just get beat up by my
Yeah.
two girls. They just hit me. But
That's
anyways,
yeah. We've worked on your resilience at the gym, I guess. So that's good.
yeah.
That's I do remember that part of it because actually, how did you like? What was the catalyst for you like deciding you wanted to start working out with a group of people?
I think it was kind of just being tired of the self-motivated, quote unquote, self-motivated workouts, which is what I've always sort of done. Just running by yourself or doing burpees by yourself or push-ups and sit-ups and squats and whatever.
Yeah.
Just to try to stay in shape, and was just looking for something a little bit different. And I think it was years ago, maybe even before, I think when our first daughter Penelope, when she was little, we took a vacation and we were in Santa Cruz and we did like a few weeks there. And I found they had a CrossFit gym there, and I just kind of did a few entry classes or whatever, and really liked the style, I guess, the model of the CrossFit workout. So that was sort of my first introduction. And then when we moved back up here to Sandpoint a few years ago and saw that there was Sandpoint Strength, which was kind of a CrossFit based gym, I was like, oh, cool. I'll go give that a look and give it a try and kind of reinvigorate the workout method, because doing it by myself was just not cutting it. I was just bored.
Yeah, totally.
So it's hard to stay motivated like that.
Yeah. What CrossFit in Santa Cruz? Do you remember which one?
It was a guy who'd was pretty early in the whole CrossFit scene, and if you said his name, I would remember it, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna pull it out.
CrossFit Santa Cruz was the first. That's Greg Glassman was the guy who founded the thing. And
what was the name?
Greg Glassman.
It wasn't Glassman, but it was a guy maybe right under him type of thing. It was right in town there. It was a good gym.
I sure hope so. If it was it was the original.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that. I should look it up because that's gonna drive me nuts now. But I'll text you when I look it up. But,
that's cool though. Yeah. I've never been to it. Just as a nostalgic.
It was. I will say it was small. Like the one I went to, it was not a big gym from what I recall. It was kind of on the smaller side. Amundsen, does that sound right?
Oh yeah, Greg Amundsen, I think.
Greg Amundsen. That rings a bell.
Yeah, so, totally.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So anyways, that was that was years and years ago, and then you're done with it. But anyways, sorry.
No, all good.
But yeah, that was kind of the seed that was planted in the brain years ago for the CrossFit stuff. And then like I say, when we moved back up here and saw Sandpoint Strength and checked it out, talked with you, and here we are 2 years later.
Yeah. And it was mostly like, I think your general fitness is a lot of what you wanted to do, but then you also spend 3 months out of the year guiding people around the woods in Colorado.
Yeah, and that's kind of the main motivation, I guess, for me is, the joke I always make is guiding elk hunters or elk hunts. You can't be in worse shape than the person paying you money to take you elk hunting. So it's a good motivator to make sure I'm staying in shape. And I know I'm getting to a point where, if I'm guiding some 25-year-old or whatever that's been getting after it and is in really good shape, that's when I have to pull out some of my tactics. Like, it's better to go slower in these situations. Speed doesn't always matter when you're elk hunting. How quick we get up this ridge isn't going to affect whether we're successful or not. But then when it's somebody older that I'm in better shape with, then I can be like, dude, I can wait for you all day. We'll just go at your pace, and
Take your time.
it's your hunt.
No big deal. Yeah.
So,
I've
yeah,
been on
but
both
yeah,
sides of that. I've been on both sides of
that's
that,
the main
unfortunately.
motivator, is to kind of stay in good shape and healthy, so I can keep guiding, because I love guiding. It's fun most of the time. As you know, owning your own business, there's definitely pros and cons to all that stuff. But for the most part, once you get out in the woods and on the mountain and you're hunting and looking for elk and chasing elk and all that good stuff, all the previous months of office work and paying taxes and licenses and responding to emails and phone calls, all that stuff kind of disappears, and you get to do what you love to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. How much did you guide last year? Because you've been doing, how long have you owned? So it's, first of all, it's Dark Timber Outfitters, right?
Yeah, we kind of have two sister outfits. There's Dark Timber Outfitters, which is more of what you would think of as like the traditional guided elk hunt. It's 5-day hunts. We do archery, muzzleloader, rifle. So kind of the standard deal. And then we have the original company that Anna, my wife, and I started in 2015, and that one's Timber to Table Guide Service. And that's
Timber Table Guide.
that's a low late season cow hunt for new hunters. That's kind of what we started doing, sort of food and education based hunts. So we started with that and then expanded into dark timber, and that all started in 2015.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So, but I guess what I was driving as you don't guide every season in Colorado.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No, since we moved back up here, I kind of let my guide staff take the bulk of the work. This year, I'll probably be guiding 3 hunts, like a couple archery hunts and then a rifle hunt.
Nice.
And just go back and forth from here to western Colorado, where we're based. Flying or driving, depending on if I need to do work, because we still have our house down in, so if I need to do work at our house or whatever, sometimes I drive, and then try to fly when I can, just because it's quicker and easier to get back and forth. So I think it's about a 16-hour drive to get down there. So,
yeah, that's a grind.
Yeah, it's a plug.
How did you feel last year? So how many, like, do you feel like this was effective? And if you say no, I'm going to cut it out. So.
In terms of my physical fitness level, yeah, I felt good. The biggest challenge now is because Sandpoint's elevation is significantly lower than where I guide. Like our cabin and the public land that we guide on is just shy of 10,000 feet, so we're at about 9,800 feet. So that's the one thing that you can't really get ready for, other than doing stuff around here, going up to Schweitzer, packing a backpack at Schweitzer, jogging up there, running up there, to get a little bit of altitude under your belt. But beyond that, not an issue. Like packing meat and all that stuff, because I don't use horses anymore. I used to, but now we just do everything on our backs to get it back out to the truck or ATV. So yeah, I think being in Sandpoint strength in that 6 a.m. class has been great. I don't think I would be nearly as in a good, and not that I'm in phenomenal shape or anything, but I would not be in as good a shape for sure had I not been participating in these classes for the last couple of years. I can say that with 100% confidence.
Yeah, that's good. Well, good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I don't think you'll have to edit that out.
Perfect. Yeah, the altitude, I think I used to know this a lot better. I think it's 2 weeks, isn't it? It's a while. Like you have to acclimatize for
Yeah, man, it really depends. I having seen a lot of people from all different walks of life and geographic locations and altitudes, I really think it's a case by case situation. Some people do not do well at all. Like they struggle. We've had multiple instances where we've had to take people to the emergency room down in Montrose because they can't sleep, they can't eat, their heart's literally like 110, 120, and they're just sitting there at the table. It can be scary for sure. Maybe edit out that part so we don't chase off any prospective clients.
Well, let's figure out how to solve it, because I have some questions about that I think people should be aware of.
Yeah, and these are people, some of the people that have had acclimation issues. They're in good shape. They're showing up in good shape. It's just the altitude gets them.
Hmm.
But then some people show up, and it's like they could be coming from Michigan at 500 feet above sea level, and they might breathe a little harder going at a quicker pace or up a hill, but they recover just fine. They never get headaches. They do just fine. And I really don't know what the rhyme or reason is there, other than it just maybe it's a individual situation with their metabolism or cardiovascular health. I really don't know. I wish I did, because it'd be cool to be able to suggest to people, hey, do this, this, and this leading up to your hunt. But yeah, some people will try to come out a few days early before the hunt starts and spend a night in a motel or camp out at 5,000 or 6,000 feet before they come up. I haven't noticed a huge difference since being back in Idaho, and then when I go down there to higher elevation, other than I get winded a little quicker. But the suggestion or the thing I always tell our hunters is like, man, the more in shape you are, the better your body will acclimate once you get to elevation. It'll do better.
Yeah.
Versus eating Twinkies and drinking 6-packs every weekend type of thing. That's not going to help you. So elk hunting to me is a great motivator to stay in shape.
Yeah. No, I those are some of the questions I'd be curious about, is like nicotine use and alcohol. Like, I think those are big, like not necessarily normal, but they are normal. People go out and like that's a vacation for them. It's a hard vacation, but it's a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And any camp I've been in like that, like there's booze and there's whatever people chew, they smoke, whatever it is. Like those things make a big difference on people's ability to recover and adapt. Other than that, I don't know what questions to ask either, other than full health checkups and how far do you want to go down that road with people.
Yeah, I a couple years ago, I can't remember if you and I talked about this already or not when we were just chewing the fat, but a few years ago I started sending a very blunt letter. Did I tell you about that?
You did, but I'd love to hear about it more, because that's a transition. That's a good segue into this. Yeah.
So what I was noticing with some of our hunters, not all of them, but some of our hunters that were showing up, and again, these are people coming from the Midwest, from the South, from the West Coast, you name it. We get people from all over the country, which is cool. But what I was noticing is that more and more of them were not showing up in my humble opinion, they weren't showing up having taken their preparation seriously enough. So they weren't in great shape, or they weren't taking the hunt seriously. And then all of a sudden, the second or third morning of their hunt, it's like, well, I might take tomorrow morning off, or, I want to sleep in, or this, that, and the other, or leaving a day early. They'd only hunt 4 days, even though they're paying for 5. And it was, the first few instances, it was kind of like, okay, whatever. It all pays the same. Like they paid their money. It's their choice. They can do what they want. But then it started kind of pissing me off because, number one, with some of them, it was, like I alluded to earlier, it became a safety thing.
Yeah.
Where,
totally.
like, hey, like, if you're not going to take this seriously, and then you show up just expecting to be able to chase elk on public land for 5 days straight at 10,000 feet, you're kidding yourself, and you're putting me and my guides in danger because of that. Like, if you have a heart problem, it's not like the hospital's around the corner,
Yeah.
So not taking that preparation seriously, not only, don't make that noise, please. not only was kind of a safety thing, but it starts to bleed into your success rate as a
Totally.
company.
Yeah.
You know, when prospective hunters are like, well, hey, how'd you do last year? It's
Totally.
like, well, if you got 10 minutes, I can explain.
Yeah.
we
Totally.
had hunters, but half of them only hunted 4 of the days, and some of them only went out 3 of the mornings, and da da da. So it's like there's this giant asterisk why you went 0 for 6 the
Yeah.
first week of archery or whatever. So long story short, because of that trend, I kind of put together an email letter, and I send it to all of our hunters as soon as they book with us. And it pretty much lines out exactly what I just said. Like, hey, here's the trend that we were noticing. Here's what I would suggest you do. And I kind of provide a link to some, I think it's just like the Mayo Clinic, where it's just like really, really baseline. Like, can you walk 3 miles in this amount of time? Can you do a push-up? Like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Not 6 a.m. Sandpoint strength caliber stuff by any stretch of the imagination, but just some basic stuff. Like, can you move your body in a physical way? And then suggest that they start working up from those baseline numbers. And if they don't want to or they're not willing to, then I'll send your money back, because I don't want you hunting with us. I don't want, not to be a jerk, but it's like I don't want those hunters in our camp, period.
Totally.
I want people that want to hunt hard and have a good time and show up prepared for it. And by doing that work early on, they have an amazing experience,
Yeah.
because they can hunt harder. They're able to see more. They can stay out longer. All of those things that lead to the phenomenal experience, sensory experience that elk hunting can be. The sights and the smells and the sounds that you cannot get sitting on the freaking couch back at the cabin. So yeah, it was a pretty blunt letter. And I've had great response from it. From the hunters that show up, they're like, hey, kind of in private, they'll say, hey, that letter you sent was great. Like, thank you for doing that. It was a good motivator, da da da. So I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. I imagine. I think I think most of our listeners are local to Sandpoint or North Idaho, and they probably get hunting. And I think that it's worthwhile to take a couple steps back on the hunting. Buying a tag does not mean you're gonna harvest an animal.
No,
let's just
no.
get at it. I think North Idaho. I think our archery success rate is usually about 8%. I don't know what it is in your unit.
It's not much high. Maybe 15.
Yeah, that's pretty typical. I think archery is usually like 10. Rifles, maybe a little higher depending on the year. But that's putting in the miles. Like, that's not just driving down the road and 8 out of 100 people shoot an elk. It's you're
Right.
grinding. In addition to that, and I think relevant to yours especially, is paying for an outfit or a guide. It's not, you're not being charioted around in a
No,
rickshaw and led to the elk to say, there's one, go ahead and shoot it. And
Yeah.
you are paying for the expertise. You're paying for someone to tell you where the elk probably are. You're paying for someone to tell you not to be an idiot and make a bunch of noise. You're paying for a call. There's a lot of stuff that is a part of that experience. You're paying for a place to stay. I mean, I've gone on a handful of guided hunts, and we've talked about the experience that I've had. It wasn't amazing, but again, it's a cool thing, but it does not guarantee success. So I think a lot of people end up like, well, if I bought a tag, I'm paying this guy X amount of dollars. Like, I'm gonna shoot the biggest elk
Yeah.
ever.
No.
Can't wait to bring home all this meat.
Yeah, it does not work that way. Yeah, you are paying for, a chunk of it for sure is meals and lodging, and we feed our hunters really well. You eat like a king for sure. So I don't skimp on the food, and we eat good food. But yeah, the main thing there is you're paying for the outfitter's knowledge of the area. And like you said, like, most of the time we see elk here, or there's a chance that this wallow that this bull has been using, they're going to come in, such and such a time. So blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's kind of what you're paying for, that otherwise they would not have that information, in hopes that it would improve their odds of getting a shot opportunity,
Mhm.
not a successfully notched tag. It's increasing the odds of opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, like that's what makes this all so special. Like if you shoot an elk with a bow or a rifle, if you shoot an elk, period, like that's something that you're probably going to win the like icebreaker thing in another part of the country. Like most people haven't done that, and that's because it's freaking hard. It's not just, and I think
Yeah.
that's what's so special about that whole experience of, if you're taking them out for 5 days, that means that, well, who knows what day they succeed, if they succeed on, but like the remaining however many hours that is, what is it, 96 hours, 100 and some odd hour. It's a lot of hours of
Yeah.
nothing. And then you get that one split second of opportunity.
Yeah. And that's almost exactly how I phrase it when we do our pre-hunt safety talk, the evening before their 5-day hunt begins, is it's like, hey, you might have success the first hour tomorrow morning. You might see a legal bull and get a crack at it, and that would be awesome. You might not see an elk for the next 5 days or hear a bugle or anything. Like, I cannot control those variables at all. It just is what it is. And then it might be where it comes down to literally the last 30 seconds of legal shooting light on the last evening, the 5th day of the hunt. And it all comes together just like that, where it can seem impossible, and then, boom, it happens, and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Made perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can be all of those things, and that is, I'm a firm believer. Every elk is a trophy. I don't care if it's a cow or a raghorn bull or a mature 6x6. They are such beautiful animals. The places they live are such beautiful places, whether it's public land or private land. We're super lucky to be able to get to do what we do, is not just elk hunting, but hunting on public lands in general. I mean, there's no place on planet Earth where you can do what we get to do.
Yeah.
With that whole thing. But anyways, yeah. Getting on a tangent there. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
No, I think it's just observational, because I think it's about putting in the work and the expectations and that whole, where people, I think one of the things I was thinking as you were describing that is how on Instagram or whatever now, it's like how archery elk hunting has become very sexy. Like people are into it because of the highlight reels they see. They see a bull come screaming in at 6 yards and like, dude, I want to do that. It's like, well, hold on a sec. Like,
Right.
Hold on just 1 minute, because that's a very small. That's the I don't know, the real or the fantasy.
That's the 20-second highlight reel.
Yeah.
Out of 5 days of sitting and not hearing or seeing anything. So,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that the other thing that among others, the little catch phrases that I'll put into my talk is, elk do not care how much money you spent, how many miles you've hiked, whether you're guided or unguided, what kind of, how much cool, expensive gear you're wearing. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just want to survive, and you're not entitled or guaranteed an opportunity or killing one, for that matter. Like, none of that stuff is a result of the miles. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not always a direct correlation, I guess, is maybe the best way to put it. You can spend all the money in the world, you can have the best guide in the world, you can hike 20 miles a day, and it still may not be enough, And then you can have someone who's smoking a cigarette, standing on the edge of a logging road on opening morning and catches a bull at legal shooting light. It's just,
Yeah.
there's it's the Murphy's Law thing sometimes. So
I think
there's
the
always
biggest-
exceptions, but
Yeah.
you gotta be humble, I guess, is maybe what I'm getting.
I think the biggest thing from that is like the amount of, like, you can do a lot to prepare, but it's still there's still a lot of mindset. But in any case, the physical preparation and all the, like, to get your health in order, get your physical abilities in order, like maximize the amount of opportunities that you can to show up the best you can, but it's still not going to it still might not happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when people
Yeah.
show up at your camp and figure they're going to fork over some cash and they walked out from Kansas with the
Yep.
shiniest, newest gear, like it's still, that's probably not, you're not prepared in the most appropriate way possible to minimize the opportunity for failure.
Yep. No, I would agree.
We started leaning this direction, but you have a quite an interesting background in terms of like you did a lot of wolf management or wolf biology and management. You've done a lot. I want to share your perspectives on, public land. I want to in wolves and like this. I just want to kind of open this can of worms and see where it goes because again, you're kind of a quiet guy, which is that's just like an observation. Like you're not you're not
Yeah.
waving the flag saying, "Hey, look, I've done all these things." And I think it's pretty neat to be able to hear what you have to say on those things. So can you walk through some of your background in those areas?
Sure. Well, yeah, when I was 20, I grew up in a little farm town in Michigan. Um, but when I was 20, I got picked up or hired, I should say, by a wildland fire crew down on the Powell Ranger District, which is a few hours south of here, the Lochsaw River on the Clearwater National Forest. So I did fire for about 3 years, and then through wildland fire, I met some biologists, and with them, I ended up getting a job with the Nez Perce tribe out of McCall, working as a wolf biologist. I did that for about 5 years. Realized that was kind of going to be that job had a time limit essentially. Once they were delisted, which took way longer than it should have because of politics. But yeah, then from wolf work, I went back to school in Moscow, got my teacher's certificate, became a high school science teacher, and that's what led us from moving from Idaho down to western Colorado. And I taught there, realized I was not going to make it as a career teacher. I love teaching, I love the kids, but again, there was some politics and some of the direction that the school district I was working for was moving that I didn't quite agree with. And plus, I just missed I'd always worked outside, and
Yeah.
so in the field, and I was missing that considerably. So I quit teaching and got a job guiding fishing trips on the river, and then that led to getting a guide job guiding guiding elk hunts. And the outfitter I worked for a handful of outfitters, and they're all great folks. But as you kind of start to learn stuff and make observations, you're like, well, I wouldn't be doing that if this were my business, or I wouldn't be doing that. And finally, my wife was Anna. She was just like, in a nutshell, like, put your money where your mouth is, like if you think you got. So that's when we started kicking around the idea of starting our own outfit, and that led to Timber to Table and then Dark Timber, like I touched on earlier. So that's kind of the timeline of the various jobs, and I wouldn't call any of them career paths, but because I didn't stick with them long enough, except guiding, that had kind of turned into a quote unquote career. But yeah, I feel really lucky to have gotten to do the breadth of things I've done. I always joke that wolf job will probably be, as controversial as they are, which I appreciate, believe me, that will probably be the best job I'll ever have, just in terms of what I got to see and do. Isn't likely to be replicated, really. They just don't work those jobs that way anymore. They're not as invasive, which is a good thing. As far as the trapping and how we did our job in the field. So yeah, I feel really lucky there. It gave me a really good understanding of the social aspect of it on both sides, because as crazy as the anti-hunting demographic can be, or I should say the anti-wolf, not anti-hunting, excuse me, the anti-wolf demographic can be, the pro-wolf demographic is just as nuts.
Yep.
Equally so. So that was a really good learning experience there, just in terms of the people and the politics. But it's interesting, you know, when you drop all that crap and just look at the animal itself for what it is, they're freaking amazing. You know, they are incredible animals. And yeah, they kill elk. Their competition with humans. There's no two ways about that. They need to be managed. We don't live in the year 1300 where there was no people impacting, you know, things. So as much as people would love to just see them footloose, fancy free, and as self-regulating as they can be, that's just not the reality of the world we live in. So anyways, yeah, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole. I mean, I can talk about the wolf and public land stuff till the cows come home, so I don't know.
No, I think that's really important to share because I think that one of the things, and I'm not the most qualified person to be doing this, but people, I am pretty public about bear hunting, and people like that turns them inside out. They're like, wait, why? You're hunting bears?
Yeah.
Well, here's how this works. Like, this is a management tool. We eat the meat. Like, there's a whole litany of things that I end up explaining. Again, probably not the right person to be doing it, but it's important because most people do not understand it. And actually, there's a handful of things that have come on the legislative table recently, some related to bears, some less related to bears, but that have been really important to me, to you, and I think it should be important to the rest of the country. But I think that most people are really disconnected from it, and so they're just like, I don't care, whatever.
Yeah.
One of which, actually, grizzly bears are just now. There's a petition to make I don't know government as well as I should. You can probably explain this better, but like they're trying to delist grizzly bears, which they, in my opinion, very much should. Can you like elaborate on the wolf situation and then maybe expound into? Can you explain the entire North American style model of management, wildlife management, in the next 13 minutes?
Right.
Using wolves and bears.
Right. It's a big topic.
Yeah.
No, I think I see what you're getting at. Well, how about you maybe target me with a question?
Yeah. Sorry, I rambled a lot.
That way I'm not babbling like a moron.
Well, tell me about your experience with wolf. Like, what did you do in the field, and how did you see? Like, what's your position on wolf management? How does that all play out?
Yeah. So when I worked for the tribe, Nez Perce tribe, our main job was to kind of monitor the recovery of the reintroduced population. So the main jobs I had were to trap and radio collar wolves. So you trap them, not to kill them, but you trap them to immobilize them, draw blood, hang a collar on them that has a frequency so you can monitor them. And then they they go off and do their thing. Locate new packs, conduct pup counts for back when we used to literally count them all like by hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 puppies and 4 adults in this pack. That was a big part of it. And then we would assist with livestock depredations occasionally if we were needed to do so. Another government agency called Wildlife Services, they did the majority of the livestock stuff, but sometimes we assisted with trapping if they needed help there. And then occasionally public interface stuff, but that became less and less because it was it just turned into oftentimes a nightmare, dealing with the public in a public setting, But to this day, I'm still a huge proponent of educating the public on wolves because there's so many Little Red Riding Hood fairy tales out there about the good and bad, both sides, like, oh, wolves walk on water and they're going to do all these amazing things to the ecosystem. Or wolves are the spawn of Satan and everyone should be gut shot, like and the truth is it's in the middle somewhere there, So trying to work with people on that when opportunities present themselves. And I learned to be pretty selective. Some people you just can't talk to on both sides. But if you can find someone who does have an objective lens to hear and see things through, those are the people you really try to help educate because they'll spread the word to other objective-minded people. Because as you know, the extremes are the outliers, kind of.
Also very loud, but
on that bell-shaped curve. So, yeah. So, but yeah, that was my job working with wolves here in Idaho. They should have been delisted, I think, a lot sooner than they were. And this kind of gets into maybe your grizzly bear stuff, where people have trepidation about delisting endangered species is that as soon as they get turned over to an individual state, so they're no longer managed by the federal government, now they're managed by the state of Idaho or the state of Montana. It's almost like this inherent fear that the state is just going to open the floodgates, start hunting them, and kill them all, because they're a predator. That's not the case, but that's the fear.
Yep.
So they litigate.
Yep.
They'll get a legal team and some environmental group, and they'll sue, and that will prolong the delisting process. And that is what happened in Idaho with wolves for sure, it's not good for anybody when that's the route, when it starts going through the court system. And I think that's kind of what's going on a little bit with grizzly bears as well. There's some concern there that, if a hunting season is instated, that's going to damage the population. I don't know enough about grizzly bears to speak too much more than that. I agree they should be delisted. I think they've recovered enough within this northern Rockies ecosystem between Glacier and Yellowstone, kind of west central Montana, that upper Blackfoot corridor. You've got the Selkirks and Cabinet Mountains here that have populations. So I think they're doing well. But I wouldn't feel comfortable saying too much more.
Yeah. So can you talk about how that process, like what the phases of, so they go from endangered, they go on the ESA? Oh, no, that is what it, anyways, tell me.
Yeah.
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 I want to do a better job than I'm about to.
Well, yeah, like with wolves in Idaho, when they reintroduced them, there were these delisting parameters that the wolf population had to meet. Excuse me. Now, unfortunately, they call it moving the goalposts. That happened a handful of times where originally it was this many packs, this many breeding pairs for this period of time. That means the population's established. Well, that wasn't good enough. We need more breeding pairs and for a longer period of time, and then they sue and blah, blah, blah. So long story short, I think for it to, when a reintroduction happens, they have to kind of set those guidelines at the onset. It's not something that happens during. And once the species has met those goals of recovery, then they can go through the delisting process to be removed from the endangered species list, get handed over to the state. The state needs to have a federally approved management plan in place, and there's usually a big public comment period for that, or there should be. And then the state takes over, and that's kind of the short version of it, I guess, condensed version.
Yeah, that was great. That doesn't mean the state's going to say, okay, well, now we're going to go back to the 1900s, which is actually not that long, like the early 1900s when they eradicated all the wolves, or they eradicated all the bears.
Well, interestingly enough, that's kind of what sort of has happened with wolves, like particularly in Wyoming. They have literally a varmint status outside of Yellowstone National Parks or the Grand Teton Yellowstone ecosystem. So basically, as soon as a wolf steps out of those park boundaries, they can be shot on site any time of year.
Got it.
So Wyoming's a little bit of an outlier there. They did take it back to how it was. Now, you can't poison them.
Yeah.
You can't do stuff like that. But I think we were joking the other day, like that guy that maimed one, wounded it, and then was like parading it around in the bar and took it to his house. It's just inexcusable, horrible behavior for a human being to demonstrate. But Wyoming hasn't been able to pass legislation saying you can't run over a wolf with a motorized vehicle. Like it's just, the mindset is sort of like, huh? But anyways, that's them. Idaho has pretty loose wolf harvest rules, like pretty extended season. You can take quite a few animals, so they're definitely leaning more towards a very liberal take. They want wolf numbers reduced as a whole. Montana is similar. But again, the good news is they're not reverting back to the old days of just throwing poison bait out there
Right.
and hoping it kills a wolf. That we have not we haven't hit that stage yet. Hopefully, we never will.
But do you know how that's compared to the targeted, like how many we're supposed to have and how many, like what the balance, how that's affected the balance? Like the loosening
That's
of
a good
regulations?
Yeah, that's a good question, and not to give you a cop out answer, but you're going to have 10 different answers from 10 different people as far as how many wolves Idaho
Yeah.
can sustain. I think Idaho's population has kind of been fluctuating around, I want to say it's between like 12 and 1400, somewhere in that ballpark. Even with trapping and hunting thrown into the mix, that seems to be the number that the wolf population is sort of plateaued at. And so maybe that's what Idaho's carrying capacity is. Now, there's people that'll say, well, it should be 500 because then there would be that many more elk and these game units would be doing better from an elk and deer standpoint. Valid argument for sure. And that's why I say you'll get different answers from different people as far as what they think that number should be. Hopefully
Yeah,
I'm
and I think
answering your
that's
question.
yeah, no, I don't think there's an answer. I think it's I think that there's a perspective and an enlightening for the. I don't know, maybe people will turn this off right now. Like this is fascinating to me, but like because it's and again, what I think is important for people to understand is like how this is all managed, whether it's bears, whether it's wolves, whether it's elk, even like there's an inherent perspective that the most educated people have, like, and they're competing sometimes, and
Mhm.
like I think that it's not just an easy answer. Like you said, you're not given an answer, but and you're I think the most involved person that I am aware of that I know I can get on a podcast to talk about, and like there's still a perspective that you have that may not be the comprising thing. So
Yeah, it's complicated for sure. And again, just through my experiences, the limited experiences I've had, everybody's perspective is valid. Because most of the time, to your point, if they've done some homework, they've done a little bit of research, they've educated themselves on the issue, and this is where they land on the wolf topic or public lands or grizzly bears or whatever it might be. Everyone is going to have a little subtle, their own kind of subtle take on it, and that's a good thing. What I think ultimately you got to remember is, at least in my opinion, I think it's real dangerous for people to start playing God in terms of we get to decide who's here and who's not. Wolves have a role. To what extent we want them to play their role, that's where we get involved, because we have altered the landscape so drastically
yeah,
from what it was that we've sort of painted ourselves into a corner by having to manage these animals. Like I said earlier, we can't just let them run all over the place like we wanted to, as cool as that may be. Thank God we have places like Yellowstone or whatever where they can.
yeah,
Um, but for the most part, that's just not going to fly in our current situation. So again, like they have a role. I think they deserve to be here. How many? That's where the rubber meets the road, and you got to kind of have some difficult decision making and conversations to determine that.
yeah, and that's I think it's really interesting too. Like you're a hunter, you own an outfitting service. Your life would arguably be better if wolves were gone.
Yeah, and I am kind of tongue in cheek with some of the stuff I say because right now, with the wolf reintroduction happening in Colorado, they have not moved into my permitted area on the Forest Service where I can operate my business. But within a year or two, they probably will be. And if they set up a den site or a rendezvous site in my area is not that big.
Mm.
And they wouldn't even have to kill all the elk, like if they just pushed elk out of the Spring Creek drainage into areas that I can't hunt, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm out of business. And that's the role of the dice I take, operating a business on public land where I'm at the mercy of the public's whim.
Yeah.
In this case, it's reintroducing wolves. So I know that, and that would suck because I don't want my business to go under. But that's the reality that's kind of, in the back of my mind, is it's very possible. It happened to a ton of outfitters in Idaho. They went out of business, mostly because wolves were impacting their area. They couldn't sustain enough hunters to make their business work. Now you can get into the finer details there too and be like, well, Idaho has some habitat issues.
Yeah.
Elk herds were in decline in certain places even before wolves were reintroduced. So you can get into over harvesting because Fish and Game wasn't managing numbers correctly, whatever. There's a lot of, it's never one thing. It's never just wolves. It's never just habitat. It's all of those things put together. And that's another huge conversation piece is humans just want the simple answer. I didn't see any elk. The wolves killed them all.
Damn wolves.
Yeah, it's goddamn wolves.
Or run them over with my truck.
Yeah, exactly. So no, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, but it's not that simple. Just ecology doesn't work that way. It's a web of stuff. Humans impact it, habitat impacts it, predators impact it, all of those things. So a bad winter could
totally
impact it.
Bad winter, bears, mountain lions, whatever. It's and what you mentioned too is another important aspect of, and I'm a freaking amateur biologist, but like a carrying capacity, like a landscape's going to have a certain amount of animals that it can sustain, and then nature often takes its course, and that's just how it ends up balancing itself out. But there is a lot of changes that transpire, especially as you reintroduce a predatory species like the wolf. Like it's going to make a lot of changes, and over time, the wolves adapt, the elk adapt, blah blah blah. But it's interesting for sure. But we haven't been overrun by wolves. There's not wolves running down my street as I look out this window right now.
No,
we've had wolves for 20, whatever, maybe 30 years now. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's 30. Yeah, it's 95, so 30 years basically. And yeah, there's still some areas in Idaho that are struggling. Like where I learned to bow hunt elk was in that Powell area on the Locksaw, and the herd there still is not doing well. That was kind of ground zero that the anti-wolf crowd used as an example of look at what wolves will do to the elk herds. Again, that herd was in decline before wolves. Did wolves deliver kind of a little bit of a death blow? Probably, but it's also a 2-bear unit. Black bears take a huge toll. So, again, it's never just one thing. But wolves have certainly, in my opinion, in some areas of the state, kept elk numbers suppressed. They're not able to get out of the decline that they're in. But then other places, the Salmon Chalice area, for example, and Sawtooth and some of those areas, they've got wolves and their elk herds are doing good, So that's, yeah. I'm not enough of an expert to say why that is, but it is. They haven't killed them all, despite everybody saying that they would.
Yeah. It's again, the adaptations, they get quieter. I think up here I've seen that they have much smaller herd. Like we don't really have herds like you'd think.
Yeah,
they're like
smaller groups. They bugle less. Yeah, and that's where it's like, well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It takes the, not for lack of a better word, takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, right.
Who doesn't love hearing a bull bugle, whether you're hunting or not? It's just a cool sound.
Well, you feel like a real idiot with a bow. Freaking, they're not yelling. They're not calling back to you. What am I doing out here with this stupid pointy stick?
Yeah, having that kind of taken away is a bummer. And that's just sort of the lumps of having to live with them, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think it's just a bigger picture part of the thing, and I think we have a very much competing interest in, or I do. It's fun. It's great. It's awesome. I'd love to go out and shoot a bull every year and have my pick of which one was screaming, and that's just not the reality. And so I don't know. I think it's important to sum that up. I think it's important for people to pay attention whether or not they're an outdoors person or they're a hunter or they're like, just to understand all aspects of it. And again, having this grizzly bear thing come up is super interesting to me because I'm of the opinion they should be delisted. I think there should be seasons. I think it should be managed. And we'll see what happens, but they're probably going to go through lawsuit after lawsuit, and that's why it's gotten kicked out to where it is now. Even when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
delisted them, they tried to delist them, what, like 7 or 8 years ago? I think there was even a hunt.
yeah. There's been some good momentum. Olympia, could you open that door so it stops squeaking? Open the door. There's been some good momentum to have them delisted, but there was some lawsuits. Open the door, please. Open that door. Sorry.
Oh, we get it. I get
Speaking of
it.
wildlife management, I've got my
Yeah.
7-year-old. Um, but yeah, it's litigation plays a role with the grizzly bear stuff. I think there were some of the more prominent biologists, bear biologists, Chris Servine, who's been around doing grizzly bear work for decades, extremely well respected guy. He was in favor of delisting. There was a pretty good ball of steam rolling there or happening there. Since then, I think it's been walked back, and without getting into the weeds, some of it has to do with politics and current administrations versus other administrations. I think it immediately creates anxiety, like, well, if we delist them now, this administration is just going to open the floodgates, and it won't be a good thing for the bear population. Versus a different administration wouldn't be as open-ended with management. So yeah, that's where it gets messy quickly.
Well, it's a interesting topic of conversation, and all of the things at play. One of the things that you see, so if you shoot a grizzly bear, presumably on accident, that's a $10,000 lose your hunting license. Like, it's do not pass go, do not collect $200. Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Like, most of you see people, this happens, and as a hunter, you can see how it would happen. Hopefully, it doesn't, but it's an interesting thing to watch people just get raked over the coals for an incident. That, again, that's a whole other topic of conversation. Of course, you don't want it to happen. Of course, you should know your target species. You should identify, etc. But that's a bummer when because they're protected you.
Yeah, mistakes happen is the thing. I mean, people shoot spike elk when they're not supposed to. It's mistakes get made. So yeah, when it happens with a grizzly bear, it is a bummer, just because they do take a long time to become reproductively mature, and they don't have cubs every year. So it's when you lose a sow, it's kind of a big step back in terms of recovery. But again, I'm also I feel like there's enough out there now that they're somewhat recovered, or at least recovered to a point where states should have some say in their management. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not everybody's ready to say yes on that, obviously.
Well, I think where I was going with that, because I don't want to be advocating for, whatever, no penalties on people that make mistakes, because it's often deserved. But one of the things that we noticed in Idaho or that we just changed in Idaho, is if you see a grizzly bear in your unit, or not in your unit, in your area, like, you're not allowed to hunt there anymore. If you have them on camera, if you have them hitting in your baits, you cannot hunt in that area. And what it, I think, is done is that nobody's telling Fish and Game what's happening. They're just like shutting up. Yeah. And I think some of the same stuff, it becomes like they lose out on data, and they just kind of push everybody underground, where they have people like, I would think, you and me, where we're trying to help. We're trying to give them information. We're trying to, like, be their boots on the ground advocates. Yeah. And then when it goes too far to one way, I think they alienate a lot of people to help out with the overall management of the populations.
For sure. Yeah, it's a missed opportunity to give the right people a chance to contribute. Because there's always going to be people that just don't follow the rules, or don't want to, or simply don't know the rules.
Yeah.
So that's that piece of the pie. But for the others that, like you say, do want to help, or I think having a relationship with your state wildlife officials is a good thing, and that's coming from a biology dork like I am. Yeah. Where I appreciate and admire the stuff that our state wildlife agencies do for the public and for wildlife and all of those things. So yeah, kind of pushing them into a corner where it's like, well, I'm going to get penalized for opening my mouth, I'll just shut the hell up, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
So, yeah,
I
probably
mean,
a
I could do
better
this for
way.
hours. I don't want to cut you out, but I know you got stuff to do.
Oh,
I could do
oh
this
yeah,
for hours and hours and hours.
yeah.
And
It's
no,
already
all
been,
good. Like I said, I want to be respectful of the rest of your day. And
yeah.
but in any case, people can find you because I want to point them in your direction for tell them about your darktimberoutfitters.com.
It is Dark Timber Lodge,
Okay.
LODGE, darktimberlodge.com, and then timber-to-table-guide-service.com. So those are the two websites, and they link to each other.
Cool.
How they do that, I'm not savvy enough to tell you, but there is. You go to one, you can find the other. That's about all I know. And I think I do have an Instagram page, but I just don't really do Instagram anymore. I'll look at it occasionally, but yeah,
It's all right.
yeah, just go to the web or call me. Or talk to me at the gym. 6 a.m. I'm usually at that class. So, which I love that class. I feel really lucky that I've been able to make that the class I go to. Such good people in there. A great group of folks. Which, yeah, you've created a great culture at that place, Kenny. So congratulations on what you and Jen have been able to do there. It's a pretty awesome thing for sure.
Thanks. Enough about me. I want to still talk about your stuff because it's good. So the one is, oh my gosh, my brain is broken. What's the late season? They do a late season cow hunt.
Yeah,
Tell me about
timber to
that because
table.
that's a really cool thing especially for a newer hunter.
Yeah, they're kind of specifically geared for new hunters. Mostly youth, if I try to, but they're a damage control hunt. So we work with a local landowner where we used to live there in Colorado. And in the wintertime, they get pretty inundated with elk coming into their ranch. They have an active cattle ranch, and it's on the river bottom, so it's kind of in historical winter range for the elk. And so what we've done is partnered with the landowners and then with Colorado Parks and Wildlife to do these damage control hunts, which is basically a hunt specifically for cow elk during the winter months to try to push the elk off of the rancher's property so the elk aren't eating them they're not eating all their cattle's food basically on private land. So we try to help the rancher keep the elk off their place, and it also gives a really good opportunity for a new hunter to have a positive first experience hunting. The person that guides them is my buddy, old neighbor Josh, who's, in my opinion, probably one of the best elk hunting guides in the state of Colorado. He's outstanding. He teaches them a lot about hunting elk when you're in the field with them. If you kill one, you're going to learn a whole bunch about processing and quartering and all that stuff in the field. And then Naomi, who is a butcher that we hire, who's a badass, she will teach the hunter how to process their elk in our barn on the last day of the hunt. So if you are successful, you walk away after the 3-day hunt with a ton of education about the food component of your animal and also the hunting component as far as some improved skills in the field when you're hunting elk. So yeah, it's a great opportunity. I wish I could book like 50 of those things a year, but I can't, just because you can't do that to the elk herd.
Yeah.
But it's a great opportunity, and we try to apply some of the educational component into our dark timber hunts, like the regular season hunts with archery hunts and rifle. We try to do the same thing where it's like, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why we're going to sit here. This is why we're not calling or why we are calling. This is why we're backing off. The wind, all of that stuff. We try to teach our hunters to become better hunters and better stewards of our public lands versus, yeah, Kenny, why don't you sit on this rock and I'm gonna go smoke some cigarettes on the I'll check in with you in a couple hours, because there are outfitters and guides that operate that way, but that is not what we do. We take it, I take it pretty serious. I mean, I love it, I have fun, but I don't take it for granted, and I take it pretty seriously as well. I want people to have a great experience.
Yeah, and just as a plug for it, so I picked up hunting when I moved up here 13 years ago or whatever. I'm a late onset hunter, and in hindsight, to do what you're talking about, to either go hire you in either of those aspects would have been such a better way to learn how to do stuff rather than like, oh, I'll just go pick up a tag and go run outside and see what happens. You know,
Yeah.
it's not, I've gotten to where I've gotten to through my trials and tribulations, and it's just a longer, slower learning curve and a lot of frustration. And I think that to have somebody show you the ropes, make it a good experience. You may not have success. You may have success, but to have a coach, I mean, you know, a little bit circling back to my business, like to have a coach, to have somebody tell you what to do, to have somebody help you, like it's so the value is so obvious once you've done it. I think you save yourself a lot of frustration. You save yourself a lot of time, and you have a good experience, and that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I would agree with all of that. I was self-taught bow hunting elk too. It took me years until I finally killed one,
Yeah.
and a lot of screw ups, and that's yeah, you can save some of that time and effort and those steps by having a quote unquote coach or guide, you know, to help you out. So long as they're
Yeah.
a good one.
Right.
There are a lot of crappy ones out there, but the guys I have working for me are great. I do an okay job most of the time, so. But I guess I pay I pay people a lot of money to say good things about me too.
Me too. Do you have hope? Do you have hunts available this year? Can you even buy stuff over the counter anymore? I don't want to open up a whole other can of worms, but tell me more about.
Colorado changed some of their stuff starting this year. Second and third rifle is still over the counter for bull. Archery is no longer over the counter for non-residents. So rifle is the last remaining over-the-counter opportunity. Right now, we're booked through 2026. So we're booked this year. We're pretty much booked. I do have some archery openings next year, I think. So yeah, if you want to bow hunt, let me know. That's the best way to learn right there, in my opinion. As far as becoming a good hunter is bow hunting elk. But yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Cool. So 2026, go hunt with Adam. Maybe not Adam.
Might be Derek or Todd, but you know.
I'm happy dragging him around.
I'll make every effort to be your guide for sure if I can be.
Yeah, cool. And then the late season one. How early does that book out?
I think it's the same. I think we're through 2026. I try not to book more than a couple years out, just because it gets kind of ridiculous. You know, like booking people that far in advance and holding a deposit, and you know their niece could get married or.
Right.
Who knows what. And so I try to just do it a couple years out. So 2027, we have lots of openings.
Cool. All right. I'll plug it. I'll put links and I'll tag your Instagram. I'll tag the Instagram cool. That you might don't even know about.
We'll talk about the commission once hunts start getting booked.
My commission is going to be that late night phone call that you don't want. Hey, buddy. Right. Remember that podcast we did? Well, I got a bit of a rodeo on my hands.
Yep. Yeah, Adam, I need you to come help me pack meat.
Yeah, exactly. So I hold those cards close to my chest for a while. So
yeah, no, that's a good thing. Always happy to help with that.
Oh, and also you're guiding on the Kootenai too. I know it's not your business, but you're guiding on the Kootenai.
Yeah, I work for Aaron Gordon, Long Drift Outfitters, which is out of Sandpoint. So yeah, I've got a trip tomorrow morning actually. So doing the upper from Leonia down to the Moye Kootenai confluence. Beautiful stretch of water. So yeah, do a little bit of that when I can.
Is that how often does that book up? Do they just?
I think they have. It can be pretty like up to the last minute type of thing. Like if he's got availability and opening, you can go. So I know August it will sometimes slow down a little bit just because families are traveling less or school's getting close to starting. So and fishing can oftentimes just start to get good again in August. If nights start getting cooler and grasshoppers are out for sure. So hopper dropper fishing can be great. So yeah. It's always a good time to be on the river.
Yeah, cool. So plenty of opportunities to hang out with you in the wilderness.
Yeah.
learn more about.
Yeah.
If you want to nerd out with Adam, right, plenty of chances.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, buddy. I'm going to shut this down before I find other reasons to keep you on this thing. So
yeah, it could be hours here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. This has been fun.
Good. Yeah, you too.
All right.
All right. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are so inspired by that you need to get started here at the gym so you can have the best fall ever, or want to get generally prepared for anything else life throws at you, send me an email, kenny@sandpointstrength.com. I'll get you all squared away. And I even have an 8-week elk hunting prep guide that I will send you for free if you want it. So kenny@sandpointstrength.com, and talk to you soon.